Good evening, one and all. Please ensure that your phones are switched to silent or off. On behalf of Council, I recognise the traditional custodians of the land and pay tribute to elders past, present and emerging. As councillors of Ku-ring-gai Council, we should always be aware that the decisions we make affect the daily lives of those we represent. Let us all make these decisions with knowledge, goodwill and respecting the views of others. Before we start this evening's meeting, we'll just outline a few points in regards to the proceedings. Tonight's meeting is live streamed on the Council's website and only councillors and Council staff are shown on camera. The webcast of the meeting is available on Council's website. The webcast will commence once the Mayor is seated and will cease if Council goes into a confidential session where the public and the press are excluded pursuant to Section 10A of the Local Government Act. Council meetings remain open to the public as observers, but in line with the Code of Meeting Practice, speakers now address the Council through the monthly public forums and not at a Council meeting. All present tonight must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleging breaches of the Council's Code of Conduct, or making other potentially defamatory statements. Councillors and Council staff must declare and manage any conflicts of interests that they may have in relation to any item of business that is the subject of the meeting agenda this evening. Apologies, councillors. Any apologies? Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An apology from Councillor Christine Kay. She's not well today.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. A seconder for that. Councillor Wheatley. And we move that those apologies be accepted and a leave of absence be granted. All those in favour? That is unanimous. General Manager, any staff apologies?
There are none, Mr. Mayor.
Declarations of interest. Councillors, any declarations? General Manager, are there any staff declarations?
None from the staff, Mr. Mayor.
General Manager, documents circulated to councillors.
Mayor and councillors, just the Greens contains 4 items. GB2, a memo from Manager Corporate Communications of today's date regarding the social media policy amendments. GB12, a memo from the Director of Strategy and Environment in relation to the DCP housekeeping review. GB15, a members' petition in relation to North Turramurra Golf Course, 155 signatories. And NM1, petition support the NTRA development for enhanced recreational facilities and community engagement, a petition including 2,354 signatories and 115 comments.
General Manager, confirmation of reports to be considered in closed meeting.
Mr. Mayor and councillors, no reports per se, but there are attachments for 3 items on tonight's agenda. GB4, councillor interaction with staff and access to information policy. Attachment 2. GB11, reclassification planning proposal. 261 Mona Vale Road, St Ives, 1186 to 1188 Pacific Highway Pymble, 1192 Pacific Highway Pymble. Attachment 3. And GB16, a late report, RFT4, Ku-ring-gai Fitness and Aquatic Centre, 50-metre pool refurbishment, attachments A1 and A2.
And I seek a motion that those remaining confidential. That's moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Confirmation of minutes. Would somebody like to move the minutes? Moved by Councillor Wheatley, seconded by Councillor Ward. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Minutes from the Mayor. We have 2 this evening, councillors. First one is MM1, which is in regards to the damaging increase in the emergency services levy costs. I will not read that one out because it is fairly lengthy, and I'm happy to move that mayoral minute. Are there any speakers on this topic? So I will put that mayoral minute. All those in favour? That is unanimous. The second mayoral minute is MM2, which is stronger measures to reduce waste. Again, fairly lengthy mayoral minutes. I'm quite happy to move that mayoral minute. If there are any speakers to it. There being none, I'm happy to move that mayoral minute. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Councillors, we move to petitions. Councillor Wheatley.
I've received a petition to support the NTRA development for enhanced recreational facilities and community engagement, which entails the Northern Suburbs Football Association, the NSFA, is seeking support for the North Turramurra Recreational Area, the NTRA development, and a vital initiative to improve recreational amenities and foster community engagement, which has received 2,354 names, including 115 comments. I move that the petition be received and referred to the appropriate officer of council for attention.
And a seconder for that is Councillor Ward. All those in favour of that petition? That is unanimous. Councillors, another petition. Councillor Lennon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Concerning item GB 15, we have received a petition from the members of the North Turramurra Golf Course, 55 signatures in all, concerning the proposed increase to the fees at North Turramurra Golf Course. I'm pleased to say that this has been considered by the relevant director and is having regard to by staff. I would like to move that that be received and referred by us to the appropriate officer of council.
And seconder for that is Councillor Ward. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Councillors, I invite anyone that wishes to have a site inspection on any particular item. There being none, I invite councillors to nominate any item on the agenda that they wish to adopt in accordance with the officer's recommendation, allowing for minor changes without debate. Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Before that, there are some procedural motion. I wish to move to suspend order to allow for a couple of procedural motions to be put.
Yes.
So the first one is that the meeting tonight shall conclude at 11 p.m. Need a seconder?
No later than 11 p.m.
That's right, by 11 p.m.
I think that was the correct wording.
At 11 p.m.
Yes, thank you. And that's seconded by Councillor Ward. I'll do this in a block. Next one, Councillor Spencer.
We don't need a...
We're going to vote in a block.
Oh, I see. Yep. All right. Next one would be, I wish to withdraw NM1 from tonight's meeting. Need a second.
And a seconder for that is seconded by Councillor Wheatley.
And that is all.
And now we just have to vote for those procedural items. All those in favour of the procedural items? That is Councillor Spencer, Councillor Wheatley, Councillor Smith, Councillor Ward, Councillor Lennon, Councillor Nye, Councillor Pettit against, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Greg Taylor. For those in the gallery, NM1 has been withdrawn and will not be dealt with, and there will be no discussion on the matter. It is as if this particular item was never submitted. So those that are here for that, you are quite welcome to stay for it. Otherwise, you can journey home if you so desire. If those in the gallery could just be quiet as they leave, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. Okay.
Did you want to do 11 or I'll do 11? I'll do it.
Huh?
Councillors, in regards to GB11, which is the potential reclassification of 3 sites, we have one of the St Ives Ward councillors who is not here this evening, and I wish to withdraw this particular item and not have it dealt with at this meeting. Okay.
I can't hear you.
That's it. Bit of an echo. Okay. So, councillors, in regards to GB11, which is the reclassification of 3 sites within the St Ives ward, we have one of those councillors not here this evening, so I would move that this particular item be withdrawn and dealt with at a subsequent meeting. That is seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? That is unanimous. So GB11 will not be dealt with this evening. Councillor Spencer.
Thank you. So I shall carry on with general business. So GB1, officer's recommendation.
Withdrawn, please.
Withdrawn by Councillor Greg Taylor.
I shall skip GB2. GB3, officer's recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Wheatley. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
GB4, officer's recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Ward. All those in favour? That's unanimous.
GB5, officer's recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
GB6, officer's recommendation.
Moved Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? That's unanimous.
I shall skip GB7. GB8, officer's recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Ward. All those in favour? That's unanimous.
GB9, officer's recommendation.
Moved by Councillor seconded by Councillor Wheatley. All those in favour? That's unanimous.
GB10, officer's recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Smith.
Withdrawn, please.
And there is no GB11. We go to GB12, officer's recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? That's unanimous.
I shall skip GB13 and GB14. And GB15, I'll skip that as well. And I'll jump to GB16,
Yes.
officer's recommendation, including the attachments.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Councillor Lennon. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
I think that concludes the general business. Is that right?
Oh, that's about it. Unless any other councillors wish to move a particular GB item with a minor amendment? Nope. We move to GB1, which was withdrawn by Councillor Greg Taylor.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, audience there, councillors and staff. I have an amendment that I'd like to put, or a motion that I'd like to put for this general business item. And I have, just before the meeting, I discussed... with,
Before you proceed, we actually need to see it on the screen.
Sir? Sorry for the delay. Just a moment. I'll speak very quickly. I will indeed. So this is my amendment. The point A and B, well, A is the same as the staff recommendation. B is almost the same, except it's changed to do not proceed with as detailed in this report. And C, I'll read out B and C. Updates to the arboricultural report and flora and fauna report do not proceed as detailed in this report. I'll talk to why in a moment. And C, point C, I had a very quick chat to Jeffrey before this meeting to discuss wording of this section of the amendment of the motion, and we decided to change two of the words.
Before you actually start talking about it, you need a
Yes.
seconder.
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Smith.
Thank you. We can change it be required to it be encouraged. I was told it's not wise to make such demands in... Yep. And get rid of the word agreement, if you could. So in C, yeah. So C, it be encouraged instead of it be required. Third word in C. It be encouraged.
Are you talking about the C?
C, yes. And get rid of agreement, just to change it to be encouraged as part of the development. Yes. So I'll read B and C out in their entirety. Updates to the arboricultural report and flora and fauna report do not proceed as detailed in this report. And C is it be encouraged as part of any of. Of any change any of the development. As part of the development. It be encouraged as part of the development that Sydney turpentine ironbark forest plant species from all strata of this ecological community be planted throughout the Linville Village Hub site with the intention of presenting and educating the community and users of this site about the features and inherent beauty of this critically endangered ecological community. So just to clarify, strata is all layers of the plant community. So we have canopy trees, understory trees, and ground covers. They all be represented in what is planted throughout the site. So I've put forward this motion. In speaking with the staff, they've highlighted that these reports have recently been undertaken anyway. I say recently, within the last 5 years, and will be again repeated. These reports will be done again in the next phase of the development. So it seems to me to be very unnecessary to spend the money on reports that have already been done and that will be done soon. I think that C there puts whatever plants we do remove, so there is 14, I think, critically endangered trees as part of the critically endangered plant community on the site that will have to be removed for the construction of this development. And so with C, the community can be educated on and can still see the presence of what this critically endangered ecological community looks like. Ideally, there'll be little signs that say this is a tree, a turpentine tree, this is a tree that you might find a powerful owl living in, or just an example, those sorts of things. So yes, so the trees that we are removing, yes, it is horrible that they do need to be removed, but there will be guarantees that species from this vegetation community will be planted on site. I urge you to support this notice of motion, this motion. Thank you.
And a seconder, Councillor Smith.
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you. I'm going to speak in favour of this motion. I feel that I agree with Councillor Greg Taylor that the reports have been produced actually a couple of times. The arboricultural reports have been produced a couple of times. We don't really need to produce them now in this stage of the project. And if the project is approved towards the end of the year, then they will be required as part of the DA. And in fact, I understand that they will have to be produced then, whether or not we produce them this year. So it's actually a duplication. Having said that, I'm not particularly averse to those reports being produced. I sort of just softly agree that we probably don't need to produce them. On the Part C, I think that it is a good idea to encourage the planting of Sydney turpentine and ironbark forest on the site. And indeed, I think we talked about that last meeting and last time we talked about this subject. So I think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a hard and fast rule, but it makes sense to me, and I think it would be a good thing for the forest and a good thing for our native ecosystems in Ku-ring-gai.
Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak in favour of this. Just commenting that a few minutes ago was the first time I've seen this. If it was in the previous form that was typed up, I would have voted against it, but I think a key word is encouraged in point C. I am a firm believer that when we are planting new trees, that we select the right tree for the right place. Otherwise, we end up in situations where we plant a tree and in 5 or 10 or 20 years' time, the tree roots or the branches or something cause an unintended impact, and we may end up having to remove the tree for safety reasons or other reasons. So I am encouraged by the word encouraged here in point C, because it doesn't mean it's mandatory. It means that whoever is leading the development and involved in deciding what tree goes where gives stiff consideration, but it isn't mandatory by any means. If the sunlight or the shading or the water or the heights or the spread of the roots or whatever is not suitable, then the decision may well be that stiff isn't appropriate for one select part of LVH. But yeah, as long as we do have the right trees in the right place, I'm okay with what has been proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Just have a quick few comments. At the April meeting, we actually had a long, lengthy debate over this particular item. And we basically landed on requesting 2 reports. Didn't get various updates and all those sort of things. So I'm a little bit confused why we're not proceeding. Seeing in April we wanted to proceed. Doesn't make sense to me. In April we wanted to proceed with getting all these extra reports and updates. And we threw in the credits report as well too. So I'm not quite sure why we don't want to get them done now. Councillors, any other comments? Councillor Lennon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just pick up on your comments and Councillor Alec Taylor's comments. Would Councillor Greg Taylor be willing to amend this so that Part B maintains the reports, but we take advantage of the very admirable item C?
The point of B is to save unnecessary spending on reports that are duplicates of what's been created already and duplicates of what will be created later this year. So I don't see that we should be spending, I think it was $15,000 to $17,000 on reports that have already been produced and reports that will be produced later in the year as well. Unfortunately, I missed the April meeting, so I wasn't able to put my point forward in that meeting. And maybe it would have been different had I been there.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, through to you, probably to Jeffrey, or actually it might even go to one of the directors on the bench. Would this scale of development and this type of report that the council supported to move forward with is a pretty small scale cost with what potentially is impacted on here? Would that be a reasonable question?
Director
Considering the
Watson.
amount of trees we're about to bowl over?
Director Watson, would you care to answer that one?
Mr Mayor, all I would say is that Councillor Taylor was quite correct in saying that would have to be done at a future point of time, not that far in the future anyway.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate that it would get done in that next stage, but would it not give the community the opportunity to see what was going to happen, I suppose, what is going to be removed, and giving a more visual of what is happening before we get to that next stage?
Director,
Would that be fair?
if you can answer that one.
Mr Mayor, all I can say is it's pretty clear to the community that these trees were always going. It hasn't changed over the better part of half a decade.
Okay, then I'll be speaking against this notice of motion. This notice of motion to me could be seen that this has been a long-going project. It gives the opportunity for the community as a whole to see what we're doing, what we've proposed, and with these trees being knocked over, and it could be seen that we are trying to not bring that forward as quickly as what we could, or give the community the opportunity to look at something that was done 8 years ago, or how many years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'd like to move an amendment, which is basically the wording as per Councillor Taylor's motion, excluding point B, having that back to the original officer's recommendation. Where the flora and fauna report proceed as detailed in the report. And I seek a seconder for that. Councillor Lennon, thank you. I'll just wait till staff put that up. As I said earlier, councillors, we argued long and hard over this, and the original notice of motion, which was authored by myself and Councillor Smith, put forward getting various reports, and that was supported with the addition of a credits report as well too. So it seems a little bit confusing to me why we would backtrack. We wanted to actually get these reports done. The majority of us wanted to get those reports done. So apart from Councillor Taylor's position, he wasn't here that evening, and it was a very long debate, Councillor Taylor. So I think we should stay the course and get the reports done. Simple as that. And Councillor Lennon, as seconder, you wish to speak now?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Only to endorse what you've just said. This was a long debate a few months ago. I'm all for being cheap. I think we want to save money, but in a project that is burning $1 million a year, this feels almost like petty cash, and I hate to say it, over thousands of dollars. But trees are very important to this municipality and to the people in it. I really like paragraph C that Councillor Greg Taylor has flagged, but having been through the debate once, I don't want us to be here any later than 11 o'clock as per the procedural motion earlier. So I think let's stick to the reports already in place and take advantage of Councillor Greg Taylor's excellent paragraph C. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Greg Taylor.
Just a question to you, Mr Mayor. Do you understand that the documents that you're requesting here have been done and will be done, and so that there's absolutely no reason that we need these documents triplicated?
You're actually starting to debate. I think that you asked the question. Am I aware?
Yes. Are you aware of this? And do you think that it's worth wasting $15,000 to $17,000 on a project that's already cost in the millions?
Yes, I am aware of it, and given that it is a large quantum of money that we are potentially spending on this site, yes, it is well worth the money invested.
You don't think that $15,000 to $17,000 could be spent better elsewhere?
No, it should be actually spent on this project.
Okay, well, I'd like to speak against this amendment. I absolutely don't understand why we would spend $15,000 to $17,000 on a triplicate of a document that we just don't need. Nothing has changed on the site since the last document was produced, and the same documents will be produced within a year. And here we are debating why we would waste $15,000 to $17,000. I mean, this is our ratepayers' money. Every cent of it. It doesn't matter how much we intend to spend on this project, how much we have spent on this project. This is still $15,000 to $17,000 of ratepayers' money that we're just doing for absolutely no reason, as far as I can tell, and as far as I can interpret from what all of our staff have said to us. So I urge you to not support this amendment and to support the original motion. Thank you.
Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A question through you to the relevant director. If we do commission the report now, and then we are required to have such a report in 6 to 12 months' time, do we have to recommission another set of reports, or can we reuse what we've done in 2023?
Director.
Through Mr Mayor, it would depend on how much time elapses between this report and the time at which the DA is lodged. We don't have an indication at this stage as to what that time frame is going to be, but the longer it is, the more likelihood is that we would ask for it to be recommissioned, yes.
So just following up on that, if a report is, say, 6 to 12 months old, is that too old, given the site?
Generally speaking, probably not, but it would depend on what circumstances change. Things can change a lot in 12 months. In some instances, in others, nothing changes, but it would really depend on the potential for those circumstances to change, and for us to, when the application's being assessed, to make sure that we've got current and correct information that we're dealing with.
Thank you. I would like to speak in support of this amendment then. I know, like I did say 6 to 12 months, who knows whether it's 6 to 12 or longer, but the thing is, there is a chance that what we have reported this year may be reused in the next few months or the next few years, and I don't mind that happening. I do understand the perspective that we actually commissioned a very similar report a few years ago, and in reality, nothing really should have changed between then and now. So I do sort of understand the argument of why we're spending the money now when we can rely on something a few years ago. But if we're going to have to redo this anyway, and if there's a reasonable chance that we don't have to do it again for a third time, we might as well do the report now. Some of you may disagree, but so be it. I'm in support of this amendment.
Councillor Taylor?
I just have a question to the relevant staff member through you, Mr. Mayor. I was under the impression that as part of the DA process, all of these documents had to be redone by the preferred proponent anyway. So us getting these documents prepared would sit on the shelf, and then the preferred proponent would have to produce them anyway. Can I get that clarified, please?
Director Marsick?
Mr. Mayor, through you, I stand by what I said earlier on. If the information is current, and obviously that would be confirmed by the applicant at the time the application is lodged, but that would also be ground truth as part of the DA assessment process by our internal experts. So there is a risk that, it is found that the circumstances are not the same and that it has to be redone. But there's also a chance that that doesn't happen. So I can't really give you a clear indication at this stage.
Councillor Alex Taylor?
Just quickly, I'm going to speak on balance against this amendment, only because, as I said in the initial debate that we had about this subject, I didn't think there was a good point in producing this report. Having said that, I actually respect, Mr. Mayor and Councillor Smith, your views that we had this debate, we decided to produce the report. I get that, and so I'm actually not strongly against this amendment, just on balance. And I just wanted to point out that the paper actually says on page 35 that it is expected that as part of a DA submission, the consent authority would require the applicant to submit an arboricultural site analysis current at the time of application. So certainly I believe the advice we have received is that that would need to be updated by the applicant, not by us. Thanks very much.
Councillor Greg Taylor?
So this is potentially again for Mr. Majotzik. My understanding of DAs is not great, so just to clarify, this will be my last question in this regard. So it's possible to produce DA applications that don't include biodiversity reports, arboricultural reports, flora and fauna reports. So a proponent can produce a DA without those documents included.
Director?
If they are not germane to the application, yes. Germane to the application.
Thank you.
Councillor Spencer?
Do we have 2 for, 2 against?
Oh, we do, Mr. Mayor. So Councillors Pettit,
Procedural motion?
Lennon and Nye have spoken for the amendment, and Councillor G. Taylor and A. Taylor have spoken.
I'm happy to put that because there's no more lights on anyway, so. All those in favour of the amendment, that is Councillors Spencer, Wheatley, Smith, Ward, Lennon, Nye, Pettit. Those against, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Greg Taylor. The amendment becomes the motion. As mover of the original motion, which was Councillor Greg Taylor, would you like to sum up?
I'll reserve my right there.
You actually don't get to reserve it because you're the only one that can speak.
I won't speak.
Thank you. All those in favour of the motion, that is Councillors Spencer, Alec Taylor, Councillor Wheatley, Smith, Ward, Lennon, Nye, Pettit. Against, Councillor Greg Taylor. Declare that carried. We move to GB2. And I seek a motion for GB2.
Yes. I believe staff has a draft for GB2. Is that on? So should I leave it there for a moment and then
Yes.
seek a seconder?
Yes, let people digest what's up there.
Councillor Nye, second.
Councillor Nye is seconding that. Councillor Spencer, you want to fire away? I think it's
I'll reserve my rights, thank you.
Councillor Nye.
Okay, I'll speak to this. I'm proposing to remove point 3.4 of this draft social media policy as it aligns with the practice of other councils in Northern Sydney and beyond. When we look at the Northern Sydney region, there are 3 approaches as to whether the mayor should have a Facebook page, and if so, who manages it. The first approach is with Hornsby Council and North Sydney Council, where the mayor does not have a Facebook page. Instead, the mayor's activities are documented on the council's official Facebook page. Most other councils take the second approach, where the mayor personally manages his or her own Facebook page. So whether it is Ryde, Willoughby, Lane Cove, Northern Beaches, Mosman, or Hunters Hill, the mayor's Facebook page is personally managed by the mayor. Staff at these councils still play a significant role in generating Facebook content, but the content is posted on the council's official Facebook page, and the mayor and councillors may, at times, share these posts through their own personally managed Facebook pages. The third approach is found only in Ku-ring-gai, where for the last three mayors, Facebook page is created and managed by council staff, and the page is archived once the mayoral term is over. Now, I personally don't have any objection to this approach, if that is the will of the mayor of the time. If the mayor wants staff to manage their official page, then that's fine with me. And if the mayor wants their good work to be archived and removed from public view after the mayoral term is complete, that is fine with me as well. However, that is certainly not the norm within Sydney, nor is it necessarily considered best practice. If it was considered best practice, the Office of Local Government would have included it in the model social media policy. But the OLG have left this topic deliberately silent. Ku-ring-gai's current practice occurs under the blessing of the current mayor, and it operates without having been documented in any official external policy. And I see no reason why this practice cannot continue to operate under the mayor's blessing without being formally documented in a policy. As long as the mayor and the staff agree, then I have no problems with the practice. But by removing point 3.4, we create much more flexibility in case a future mayor wants to align with the best practice of his or her peers. Removing point 3.4 does not mean that council staff are out of a job. They are still free to create content on Ku-ring-gai's Facebook page, and the mayor and other councillors may choose to promote and share it via their own profiles. This is the current approach that I've seen taken with great effect by Councillors Smith and Taylor on local community groups, and it also brings a greater audience and following to our council's own official Facebook page, thus improving the reach and effectiveness of council's social media channels in the long term. Point 3.4, if retained, may also create confusion in future if there are two official Facebook pages for the same mayor. My preference is to delete point 3.4 so that we can retain flexibility for future mayors to decide who and how to manage the mayor's Facebook page. And I would discourage 3.4 from being left in the policy because if so, we may end up wasting time and ratepayer dollars to change and re-release the social media policy if a future mayor decides that he or she would like to retain the rights to their page. Please vote for common sense. Please vote to have point 3.4 removed. There is no reason to cause unnecessary confusion. It is not recommended by the Office of Local Government. It is not the approach taken by any other council. And if it is the will of the Mayor, there is no reason why the current practice cannot exist without formal documentation in a policy. Thank you.
Councillors, I'd like to move an amendment which is the officer's recommendation, and I seek a seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor Smith. Thank you. In regards to 3.4, which you hopefully have all read, the Mayor's official Facebook page is managed by the SMC, the Social Media Coordinator. At the end of the Mayor's term, the Facebook page is archived and a new Facebook page is created for the Mayor. This has worked extremely well for the last 3 mayors. By having staff involved in managing it, they provide a large amount of input into the content, the photos, what is posted and when it is posted. I don't believe it is in our interest to have it open to the Mayor to decide what they post, how they post, when they post, with no oversight. Do we want to have a Mayor that's posting at 3 a.m. and posting self-promotion, which might actually be in conflict to a position of council? Because the Mayor might be unhappy and then might contravene the resolution by saying, I'm not happy, I don't believe that was the right thing to do. That's opening Pandora's box. We don't want that. We'd rather have staff managing it in conjunction with the Mayor and having oversight to it. Councillors do, as they do now, currently share the Mayor's page, and it is greatly appreciated. So that's not going to change. We could have a Mayor that would suddenly use this page for promotion running up to a council election, or they could use it to promote other councillors against other councillors. That would be somewhat unfair, would you not agree? We don't want it to be abused. The current system works extremely well. And I might ask Ms. Leaf this, have we had a situation where we've had 2 active mayoral Facebook pages, and how could this actually happen?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Could you just repeat that question again?
Have we ever had the situation where we've had 2 active mayoral Facebook pages?
No, we haven't.
How could that actually arise?
Well, I think it could arise through a mayor creating their own page, even though we had the page managed by the social media, through the council mayoral page. But I think that that would be confusing to the community, so one would need to be managed out.
Does having 3.4 in the policy allow greater control so that does not happen?
Well, I think the reason, through you, Mr. Mayor, the reason why we've put it in the policy, because it is the way that we run the mayoral Facebook page. I know it's not in the model policy, but we took a whole lot of stuff out of the model policy that wasn't relevant to us as well, because it was just a model policy, and it said it could be adapted for each council, which we did. So we put that mayoral page in because that's the way we do it. I didn't think it would be a conflict issue. It's just the way that we currently do it. And I do think it's a reputational issue. I think by having, and can I just say too to all the councillors, through you, Mr. Mayor, is that we work the mayoral page with the Mayor. So we don't just make it up and say, here, sign it off. We work through it with the Mayor. So the Mayor might come to us with an idea, or we might say what we do is that we actually have a meeting every week. We go through what the Mayor's doing. We organise to get photos. We do all those different things. So we work in concert, and that's the way it is. So it's not just me or my team making it up as it goes along. We actually put some thought into what the Mayor's doing.
And can you give a number of staff that are actually involved in the mayoral Facebook page?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. So there's 4.
And if we took out 3.4, would the staff be as involved?
Well, it would, through you, Mr Mayor, it would depend on the Mayor of the day. So I wouldn't know what that would look like. I have been corresponding with Councillor Nye, so we have had those conversations, but I do believe that it's about consistent messaging and also having the right corporate message. And that's what we use the mayoral page for. It's not a political page. It's a page for to get the good message out about council through the mayor.
So with 3.4 being in there, it allows for greater control of the messaging rather than without it, where a mayor could go, I wouldn't say rogue, and post whatever they wish.
Well, through you, Mr Mayor, I don't know if I can really answer that, but what I can say is that certainly by involving the staff and having that access to people that can write, that we can do photos, we can do graphic design, all of those sorts of things, it certainly does a consistent corporate message.
Thank you. Councillor Nye.
Thank you. I would like to speak against this amendment for two reasons. One is the fact that if you don't have the mayor's Facebook page managed by staff, it still means that content does get produced. In most other councils out there, they produce content and they put it on the council's own official Facebook page, whether it be Willoughby Council, Northern Beaches Council, Ryde Council, etc. Staff produce content. It may or may not contain the mayor. It gets posted on the council's Facebook page, and it continues on even beyond the mayor's term in a respectful manner for all those involved. Secondly, I'd like to address concerns about mayors going rogue. Now, all of us here as councillors and mayors, we are all subject to the Code of Conduct. And if you look at this draft social media policy, points 3.2 cover the conduct of councillors and the content that they post on Facebook. And point 3.5 covers the conduct and content of the mayor with content that they post on their Facebook page. So by retaining 3.4, it's not necessarily a check or balance that controls or ensures a certain standard of what the mayor's official page publishes. In fact, that check or standard should be applied from 3.2 and 3.5. What I see here is just the opportunity to allow flexibility to occur if 3.4 wasn't there. I don't think having 3.4 locked in here is in the ratepayer's best interests. I think having 3.4 here means that one day, whether it be 2024, 26, 28, a future mayor may decide that they want this changed, and then we have to go through the long-winded process of having it redrafted, redebated, reconsulted for 28 days, and then adopted. And I just don't see that's necessary, so I'd rather nip it at the bud. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, I'll be speaking for this amendment that's been put up. I appreciate what Councillor Nye's put forward. I do believe that anybody in a position as a councillor, we all can be here as being biased. It's good to actually have somebody that's sitting there. It's an official outreach to the community, and it would be nice to be able to knock as much bias out of that page that's been communicating from the mayor. The mayor is the official spokesperson to the council, and I believe that it is critical that we don't get a personal bias on a position that the council's been put forward that may undermine what the message is, what we're trying to send out to the community, what the council's resolved on. I think it could be quite conflicting, and it could cause a bit of angst in the community, because at the end of the day, sorry Mr Mayor, you're just a figurehead, but you do speak for the council, and I think that there should be as much rigour and everything put into it that it's in much balance and with as least amount of politics involved in it. For those reasons, I'll be supporting this amendment.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, a question to, I just wanted to know what sorts of things do we put on our council website, on our council Facebook? Does it include the mayor's comments on there? Or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we also have a official council Facebook page, which we run all the time, so it doesn't get archived like after we have mayors. So it's consistent. So yes, we put a lot of information on there, and we share information from the mayor's page. So say if the mayor went to, like he did yesterday, to a preschool, there's a photo of him with the children and that sort of stuff, we might share that to the Facebook page, to the council Facebook page. So it might get done because the mayoral Facebook page has a smaller following because mayors turn over, but the corporate on the council Facebook page has a consistent following.
So if the council Facebook is a major Facebook, and we are posting things on there about the mayor and his activities, why do we then need to have 4 staff managing the mayor's Facebook as well?
Yeah, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. 4 staff, when I say 4 staff, I mean probably 1 staff who does most of it and then people who edit it or do it. So it's certainly not 4 staff all the time. 4 staff in a meeting once a week for half an hour, and so it's not really about that many staff. But I think the idea is, and always has been, that the mayor has a presence on Facebook. So we've been doing that since Facebook has been around in a small way. I think maybe we had one with Councillor Malecki first, but it was very small and Facebook really wasn't around very much then. So we've grown it and grown it and grown it. And now Facebook actually is probably not the only place to be. I mean, Facebook's now the place where people over 50 go to find their information, as opposed to Snapchat or Instagram and things like that. But we do believe it's important for the mayor to have a Facebook page to talk to the community from a statesperson point of view.
So a question to you through you, Mr. Mayor. So do you have a Facebook, a personal Facebook?
I do have a personal one which is private.
Okay. So do you have a mayoral one?
No, I do not have a mayoral one.
Okay. So your mayoral one is managed
Is the council one, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Nye?
Thank you. A question through you to the relevant director or perhaps even the GM. If the mayor decides to publish a piece of news and the staff do not agree with it, who wins? Does the mayor's post end up on council's website, not Facebook, but website? Or do the staff get to sense check, safeguard and prevent it from happening?
Ms. Leaf?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't believe I've had a situation like that. I don't believe from a social media point of view that there's been a situation where the mayor has requested something that we would disagree with. So I haven't had that situation for social media.
Thank you. And my second question is through you to the General Manager, Mayor to the General Manager. Nearly 3 years ago, 23rd of September 2020, there was a news article called Protection of Ku-ring-gai's Character at the Crossroads. That was, from what I understood, published by the Mayor. I personally believe there were some factual inaccuracies, and when I asked about it, I was told that the Mayor is the council spokesperson, nothing can be done about it. What's our view on sense-checking mayoral content?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't recall the article that Councillor Nye refers to, but in relation to the Mayor's Facebook page, at the end of the day, we can give he or she advice as to what we think is appropriate, legal, not legal, but the Mayor is the Mayor, and the Mayor at the end of the day, regardless of the advice, could post what they want regardless.
Even if it's politically motivated or appears to be?
We have no authority to direct the Mayor of the day as to what goes on his or her Facebook page. We can only advise them.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Alec Taylor?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Have we had 2 for and against on this matter? Does anyone else want to speak against? I'd like to speak against.
Or if you don't wish to, then I'm quite happy to put the vote.
Okay.
So all those in favour of the amendment, that is councillors Wheatley, Smith, Pettit. Those against? That is Councillor Spencer, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Ward, Councillor Lennon, Councillor Nye, Councillor Taylor. The amendment is lost. We revert back to the motion. All those in favour of the original motion? Councillor Spencer, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Ward, Councillor Lennon, Councillor Nye, Councillor Greg Taylor against. Councillors Wheatley, Smith, Pettit. That is carried. We move to GB7. And I seek a motion for GB7. Councillor Greg Taylor.
There's an amendment. Oh, sorry, an
No,
motion.
there needs to be a motion, not an amendment.
Sorry. So for those at home, it says, I move that Councillor Sam Nye and Councillor Greg Taylor be appointed to the GM's Performance Agreement Panel.
Seconded by Councillor Alec Taylor.
So this is pretty self-explanatory. We were all present, all of the councillors were present in the last General Manager's Review business item. And I expressed concern at how many people supported that when I felt it wasn't a legitimate review. So I hope that instilled my passion for this review process, and I intend to bring that passion to this panel, this performance agreement panel. I further have felt that Councillor Nye puts integrity and has the skills to be on this panel as well. So I urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Alec Taylor is seconder.
Reserve my right.
Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an amendment, please.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. Your amendment?
I move that Councillor Nye and Councillor Whitley be appointed to the General Managers. Same wording there.
Thank you, and that's seconded by Councillor Smith. We'll just wait till staff put that up. There we go. Councillor Spencer.
Thank you. I believe some time ago, not too long ago actually, the original motion to suggest that two councillors be appointed was brought to council by Councillor Nye. And therefore it is appropriate that because of his enthusiasm and his I already said enthusiasm. He would be the appropriate person to be there. Now, and I honestly like you very much, Councillor Taylor, but I thought perhaps my colleague, Councillor Whitley, would be ideal as well. I did not ask for a consent. Maybe I should ask her whether is she willing to be in that panel. And I believe she'll do a wonderful job as well, and it's quite a balanced panel, one male, one female, and I think it's a good one. And I urge the councillors to support this amendment. Thank you.
And a seconder for that, Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, I will be speaking for this amendment. Both the council and I, both Wheatley, have the strengths in this type of position in council, to be quite honest. The two of them, I think as reiterating the point that Councillor Spencer made, we've got a male and female, we've got one that's in the Liberal Party, we've got one that's an independent. I think it shows a very balanced view when we're going through the GM's package. So I will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to speak in support of this motion. It seems a bit
In
self-interested.
support of the amendment.
Yeah, it's support of this amendment. I'd say that this is potentially stronger than the original motion because it involves 3 councillors being on the panel from 3 different wards, whereas the previous composition was 3 males, 2 from the same ward. I do have confidence in Councillor Wheatley. I know that beforehand, while we were councillor-elect and not councillors officially, we did have discussions about what it means to manage a high-performing team, and I do have confidence that I do want to give Councillor Wheatley the opportunity to demonstrate her skills in this area. Thank you.
Councillor Lennon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm a huge fan of Councillor Wheatley. It's fantastic. I was unaware of your interest. And I know the General Manager has said that he intended not to nominate someone to the committee, but he does have the scope to. I said to Councillor Greg Taylor yesterday that I would support him. And having said that, I'll be sticking to that. So thus I won't be supporting this amendment, but I hope that the General Manager will change his mind. And if this motion should not pass, and if Councillor Wheatley is not on the panel by virtue of this motion, I hope that Councillor Wheatley becomes part of the panel by virtue of being the nominee of the General Manager. But having given my word to Councillor Greg Taylor and knowing his ability, his tenacity and his devotion to the people of this municipality and this council, I support the original amendment and will be sticking to the word that I gave Councillor Greg Taylor yesterday and will be opposing this amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question to the General Manager, would you consider at this time also using your right and also nominating Councillor Wheatley onto the panel?
General Manager.
Mr Mayor and councillors, as stipulated in the report, I won't be. I have my own personal reasons for that. I think that whoever I nominate, it politicises that councillor, and I think it places them in an uncomfortable position when they sit on the review. And for those reasons, even though it probably would be in my advantage, I will refrain from doing that.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm also a huge fan of Councillor Wheatley, and I'm also a huge fan of everybody who's been nominated tonight. I was not aware that Councillor Wheatley was interested in this role, and had had a conversation with Councillor Greg Taylor. I'm uncomfortable reversing my role in that, but I'm wondering if Councillor Wheatley, could you tell us a little bit about how you would perform the role? Yeah.
Councillor Wheatley.
Having had 28 years in corporate experience and managing high-performance teams in regards to KPIs, also having had set performance reviews and also undertaking performance management, I believe that I would be the right person to be able to do this, being quite diplomatic in the fact that I have had people work underneath me that have been in positions that are quite senior, and I truly believe I'm the right person for the job. I don't know, I can't speak for...
Consultation, engagement, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Quick question, seeing we're quizzing councillors. Councillor Wheatley, how many performance reviews have you undertaken in your career?
Probably more than about 400.
And just to be fair, Councillor Taylor, how many performance reviews have you undertaken in your career?
certainly not 400. But I'm going back to the integrity of our last review.
That's all the question was. It wasn't. We're actually debating it again, unfortunately. So we will put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, unless. If there are no further speakers, I'm happy to put the amendment. All those in favour of, as per the amendment? Councillors Spencer, Wheatley, Smith, Nye, Pettit against. Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Ward, Councillor Lennon, Councillor Taylor. That amendment is carried. The amendment becomes the motion as mover of the original motion. Councillor Taylor. Do you wish to sum up?
No.
Okay. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour, being Councillor Spencer, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Wheatley, Smith, Ward, Lennon, Nye, Pettit against. Councillor Greg Taylor, I declare that carried. Councillors, we move to GB 10 and that was withdrawn by Councillor Greg Taylor.
I'll just wait for this to be put up. Okay, yes, so...
And a seconder for that.
So down the bottom there, I move that this item be deferred till next meeting to allow councillors more time to absorb and consider the information in this complex and important document.
And I seek a seconder for that. There being a Councillor Nye, seconder.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
So this is, an extremely loaded document, extremely important for what we allow in our development applications and perhaps other documents and other activities that happen in the council. I feel like this was a very loaded meeting, and I feel like it would be of benefit for councillors and residents if we defer this item. Where at every public forum, particularly Janet Haywood comments on how she feels we could be protecting our locally Indigenous ecosystems far more than we are, and this is specifically the document that would do that, or one of the documents that might do that. So I feel like this document shouldn't go unamended. Or should have further amendments to those of the councillors' recommendations, and I personally would like to have the opportunity to do that. Please support this. Thank you.
Councillor Nye, seconder.
I'm actually going to speak against this motion. I seconded because I wanted some of the debate to occur. My personal view is that we had these papers come out 3 weeks before the council meeting, so we've actually had more time than usual to consider the material. I would actually love for this to be the precedent next year, but that's a separate debate. It is going out to public exhibition, so there will be an opportunity for the public to review the material and consider it and you know, give their words of support or objections or concerns. We were briefed on this matter a while back. I forgot which exact date. I couldn't find it in my 5th of June. So about 2 weeks ago. So I'm of the view that we have had some time to consider the main parts of the document. I personally do have some grievances against some aspects of development, but it may be state legislation rather than this. I think it's the right time for us to put this on public exhibition, but I do understand the concerns that some people may have that, given how complex it is, it's hard to digest. But I would encourage all councillors to just put it on public exhibition and continue asking their questions. Thank you.
Councillor Nye, would you like to move an amendment then, as per the officer's recommendation, if you feel that we should put it on public exhibition?
Yeah, sure, okay. I'd like to move an amendment of the officer's recommendation.
And we can extend the exhibition. I'll seek a seconder for that. And Councillor Nye, with your amendment, perhaps we can extend the exhibition period from 28 days to approximately 40 days. Would that suit you?
Yeah, sure, 40 days.
40 days. Thank you, Councillor Nye. And seconder for that, Councillor Smith. Councillor Nye, would you like to speak to your amendment? And as seconder for that, do you wish to speak to it? No. Councillor Greg Taylor.
Yes, I think I'd like to thank the staff for suggesting 40 days of community consultation. I do feel more confident that that will give the residents and councillors the opportunity to really digest this complex document. So we'll now support this, this motion.
If there are anybody wish to speak against this particular amendment, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? That is unanimous. The amendment becomes the motion. I don't think the mover of the original motion wishes to speak.
Again, no.
Thank you. All those in favour of the motion? That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we move to GB 13. And I seek a motion.
Sorry, I thought it was Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth Park. Yes, sorry, I do have an amendment here. A motion here. Sorry, that's why I'm all so confused. I can perhaps start talking about this, or is it better we wait? Oh, sorry, we're putting it up. So the council amend the Glade Landscape Master Plan Report, May 2023, to include the following changes. One, formalised street parking be added along the western boundary of the site along Kura Avenue, subject to protecting significant trees. Two, installation of a footpath along the glade, so that's the street that accesses the park to the northwest. Three, that immediately council staff will plant blue gum high forest screening vegetation along boundaries nearest to residential properties, especially along northern, eastern and western perimeters of the sporting field. The screening vegetation should include all strata of the blue gum high forest ecological community and include some mature canopy and mature understory trees. And this vegetation be allowed to establish for 5 to 8 years before any field lighting can be installed on the site. So just to clarify, strata is again so we've got understory, canopy story and shrub layers all in there to get maximum protection from light pollution and allowing 5 to 8 years.
You need a seconder as well before talking to it.
I shall wait for a seconder.
Seconded, Alec Taylor. Councillor Alec Taylor.
Yes, so firstly, I'd like to state my disappointment at how residents treated staff at the information session. Our staff here often don't get paid as much as people in the private sector, but persist here because they're passionate about the community, and I felt how they were treated in that instance was very disappointing. Secondly, there's been a considerable amount of community consultation after this original master plan was produced, and council staff have done nothing to amend this document. I find that also quite disappointing when our residents were so passionate about the changes that they would have liked to have seen. So just to go to my amendment, so during wet weather and a Saturday, for instance, when a sporting event does happen, the glade, so in wet weather, prams or wheelchairs or any sort of access can't happen along the glade, and they have to go through a packed street full of cars that are parking, cars coming in and out, and it forces pedestrians with prams and whatnot to walk on the road. So I think it's absolutely imperative that there is a footpath installed along the glade. From the design, it looks like the southern side of that street would be most appropriate. The additional parking along Kura Avenue, I feel for the same reasons is absolutely imperative. There's already issues with parking there, and if we improve the facilities, that's going to mean more traffic, and there's already not enough parking there. It's a hazard, it's a safety hazard, so I feel that it's absolutely imperative that we have parking along Kura Avenue. I understand that this might result in the cutting down of some trees. I would suggest that the significant trees are kept, and that the smaller ones, the less significant trees, be removed. The significant trees that are kept, I think would be ideal to have those incorporated into the parking spaces. So between parking spaces, for instance, or something along those lines. The lighting obviously was hugely contentious between residents nearby and sporting clubs. Unfortunately, this doesn't eliminate the idea of there being lighting. With our growing populations, it's only a matter of time before all our fields will have lighting and drainage and turf done on them. But I've tried to alleviate that as much as I feel is possible by suggesting that screening vegetation be planted everywhere that is close to residential properties, and that it be allowed to establish and fill out for maximum protection from light pollution for 5 to 8 years. That may be excessive, but some of we need this light pollution to be reduced at an absolute max, and I feel that 5 to 8 years is the minimum time that this will be required for vegetation to fill out those spaces. I urge you all to support this notice of motion. Thank you.
Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Greg Taylor, 5 to 8 years is a long time, and I feel like this particular vegetation is not actually going to grow that much anyway in 5 to 8 years. So I do believe that there will be some compromise required if we are to install lights at this site. And I'm wondering if you would accept a minor change to your motion and accept 2 to 3 years rather than 5 to 8.
I mean, I would very much prefer not to, and I feel that the residents would also prefer not to. Just that blue gum.
I think the answer is no. Yep.
I mean, in fear of this motion failing, I feel like if there's no other opportunity, then what did you suggest? 2 to 3? Yes, I will accept the 2 to 3 years.
Well, if he says second, you're happy with that? Yep.
Thank you. Am I right?
Councillor Nye?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question through to Councillor Greg Taylor. I liked your other motion on Linfield Village Hub where the stiff was optional. It was encouraged but optional. Would you consider some sort of amendment to point 3 so that, and so is Blue Gum High Forest, but Blue Gum High Forest isn't mandatory? It should just be considered.
So the intention behind exclusively Blue Gum High Forest was to, at the same time as providing light pollution shielding, was also to enhance the fauna habitat capacity of the park, which I understand was also a concern of residents nearby. I mean, I think not encouraging, but I mean, also on the site there's bamboo that has been planted to screen some of the properties, and that is doing a fantastic job at doing that. I couldn't condone planting of bamboo because it is considered a noxious weed and destroys critically endangered plant communities all over this part of Sydney. But yes, perhaps it does do a good job at screening. So then if we can add something there, that will support what Councillor Nye was suggesting. Is there any suggestions?
So perhaps point 3 could say immediately plant screening vegetation including Blue Gum High Forest, and then delete the next bit of screening vegetation. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, all good?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the most important thing is the locations that this is done. So it's imperative that it's at the northern, eastern, and western perimeters, yes, that it's planted immediately, and that lights not be allowed to be installed for 2 to 3 years after they've established.
Councillor Spencer?
Just a quick question, if I may, to Councillor Taylor. So immediately plant screening vegetation and so on, and do you still require number 4 to wait for 2 to 3 years?
Yes, definitely. The establishment of those plants is imperative to shield as much light as soon as possible.
Councillor Nye?
Thank you. A question through you to the relevant director. If the original staff recommendation had gone through, what would have been the time frame before the lighting gets installed, like after tender and detailed design and all that kind of stuff? How long would it have been? Would it have been 2 to 3 years or sooner?
Director Watson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we've always been fairly clear that it wasn't necessarily a priority. The priority would be the condition of the playing surface, the drainage and the toilet block. Traditionally, and the question came up earlier in relation to the Glade, Queen Elizabeth, we have encouraged clubs to actually facilitate and fund lighting upgrades where they can, because a lot of smaller grant programs are aimed at that, particularly some of them are specifically aimed at lighting. There is a couple of locations on the master plan notated W, which provides street planning, particularly on the eastern boundary. But no, Councillor and I wouldn't have thought lighting was a short-term proposition unless there became a funding stream available. The council's funding for this program is limited, and it would have gone to other things first. 10 years is roughly how long it takes us to implement a master plan.
Councillor Taylor, question?
Just to clarify with that question, I feel like it would be better to amend this motion.
You need to ask a question.
So might the issues that Sam has mentioned be addressed if we remove the word immediately from 3? And
Who are you asking the question to?
A relevant director.
Okay.
And put this vegetation be allowed at least to establish for at least 2 to 3 years. And so that, so the point is that the lights need to be established, and I'm getting to the question about this. Before the lights are installed, that the vegetation has the opportunity to establish. And so do you feel that this change, relevant director might achieve that?
Director Watson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I fundamentally don't agree with the premise of the amendment to plant trees on the north, west and east. So I don't want to be seen to be encouraging the amendment of this motion for that reason. I think the motion, if you plant trees everywhere, is fundamentally inconsistent with the principles of crime prevention through environmental design.
Can I just clarify that it's not just trees? It's all strata. So that includes shrubs. There might not be
That's not a question.
Okay, well then I'll sit down.
Director, does that make that better or worse?
It makes it worse, Mr. Mayor. You wouldn't see anything at all through the strated screen.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
I had thought that was what the definition of screening vegetation was. We were trying to reduce light pollution.
You need to ask a question. You're now debating it again. Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question to Councillor Greg Taylor. Would you consider also amending these words to talk about adopting the master plan report as amended? Because at the moment we're just amending a report, but then we're not actually adopting it as a council, so it feels like there's a missing part. So amend
Amend and adopt?
Yeah. So I trust that Chris will come up with something.
Thank you, Councillor Nye. Yes.
Councillors, I'd like to move an amendment that this matter be deferred for an in-depth briefing with staff and be brought back at a subsequent meeting. And I seek a seconder for that. Second by Councillor Spencer. Councillors, obviously we don't have any consensus at the moment with what to do with the glade. We're making policy on the run. We've chopped and changed between the length of years. We're looking to have screening. We're also changing bits and pieces as we're going along. Let's have a proper briefing, have a discussion with council staff and come to a firm position what we want to do with the glade. Let's not do this policy on the run. And that makes sense, councillors, from what I can see, and I hope you agree with that. As seconder for that, do you wish to speak? Councillor Greg Taylor.
I can support this. This will give my amendment or a motion, whatever we're calling it, the opportunity for residents to comment, and I think that's very important in this process. So yes, so I can support this being deferred residents being able to comment and us being briefed from staff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Nye?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm supportive of this amendment. I know Blue Gum High Forest. I've got a Sydney blue gum on my own property, and it supports all sorts of nature, wildlife, birds, possums, all sorts of wildlife. I also understand that owning a Sydney blue gum comes with its costs and some disadvantages as well. Today I had to get a plumber to come out to address tree root blockage of our sewage pipe. We had toilet paper and all sorts of other things all over our backyard. And like that, there are disadvantages, some disadvantages as well. I think these need to be considered thoroughly before we implement it. I would strongly encourage the right tree in the right place. I love Sydney blue gum. I hope there are locations on the site, but it would be good to understand it before we go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Nye. There being no further lights, I'm happy to put that amendment. All those in favour? That is unanimous. The amendment becomes the motion. All those in favour of the motion? That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Nye, GB 14.
Right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move something on the screen, and I'll just read it out as we pull it up. That Council amend the Queen Elizabeth Reserve Master Plan Report, May 2023, as attached to this report with the following. 1, the area denoted as on-site option 1 on page 8 of the QE Engagement Report Final, May 2023, will become a dedicated off-leash area for dog owners, particularly at times when the oval is not available. And 2, a comment that the upgrade of the circuit track, item N on page 21 of the Master Plan Report, will draw inspiration from other children's cycle tracks in the Sydney metro area. B, adopt the QE Reserve Master Plan Report May 2023 as amended. And C, retain the shared facility on Queen Elizabeth Field with timed usage for a dog off-leash facility between 4 p.m. and 10 a.m. 7 days a week, unless there are organised sports being undertaken, in which case dogs are to remain on leash. I'd like to seek a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Alec Taylor. Councillor Nye, away you go.
All right, thank you. First of all, I'd like to commend staff on preparing quite a thorough master plan for the Queen Elizabeth Reserve. Certainly early feedback has been considered, especially with regard to basketball courts, for example. We ended up not having a full-size basketball court, but providing a number of hoops in the middle to minimize the disturbances and the amenity impacts to surrounding residences. With regard to the topic of dog off-leash, during the master plan consultation, there were 4 potential alternate options for dedicated off-leash. There were 2 on-site ones, options 1 and 2, and there were 2 off-site ones. What has happened though is after the master plan was produced and this report produced, it appears that options 1 and 2 on site are not being fully utilised in the way that they potentially could be. I am of the view, and I believe it is also Councillor Taylor's, that on-site option 1, which is a sliver, a triangular piece of land towards the east side of the oval, could potentially be dedicated for off-leash dog usage, and that would especially benefit dog owners, especially during times when the oval is not available to them. Given the size and nature of the land, it's not a piece of land that's heavily utilised by any other part of the community that I am aware of, so I'm okay with the idea of it being dedicated off-leash for dog owners at all times. Secondly, I know that the circuit track is mentioned as having an upgrade in the master plan report. It would just be nice to have a few additional words to flesh out that this could be used for children's cycling, which I'm sure it will be, but we can draw inspiration from a number of other Sydney metro areas. There's Ryde Park, Strathfield Park, Blenheim Park. The reason why I'm not listing them here, as I did in a previous version, is that I want to leave it open for staff to consider what to incorporate, what is appropriate for the site as part of detailed design. Finally, point C is relatively, it is similar to the original staff recommendation, but we've just simplified it as 4 p.m. to 10 a.m. because two reasons. One, I do like how it's simplified. It makes it easy for all people to know what the hours are. You don't have to think, is it summer season, is it winter season, is it 4 p.m., is it 6 p.m.? Secondly, I was there on the weekend at 4:20 p.m. At the time, there was certainly no sporting activity taking place, but there were certainly a good number of dogs and dog owners enjoying the space at the time. And if we had the original wording as recommended, then they may have been excluded from using the oval. So I would encourage this version, point C. Overall, I'd like to commend staff on pulling the master plan together. I do encourage maximum use of the site in a way that is considerate of the needs of local residents, and I believe that this form here achieves that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nye. Councillor Alec Taylor?
I'd like to reserve my right, thanks.
That's quite right. I'm happy to jump in, Councillor Nye. With the cycle tracks, they are a winner. If you go to a childcare centre, the kids love using them. Even yesterday, when I visited a childcare centre, you had 3 or 4 tricycles and you had kids on them non-stop. So it is absolutely a winner. So well done for that. Thank you. There being no more lights on, happy to put that. All those in favour of Councillor Nye's motion, that is unanimous. Councillors, we move to GB 15. Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move a motion on GB 15. The staff have got that in hand. Would you like me to read that? Or okay. Just making sure it looks the same. Yep. Sorry, I probably locked those in. All my notes. Oh no, got it. Thank you. So I'll just read it out for everybody. The motion states, point 1, that the scenarios for increasing rates above the cap, related expenditure and consultation be delayed by 1 year. Point 2, the council modify task P6.1.1.6 in the delivery program and operational plan to add, consider grant opportunities to fully fund an amenity building in the Irish Town Grove. Point 3, that council reallocates $485,000 in the capital works program from infrastructure renewal enhancement programs under roads to the Pymble Town Hall refurbishment of roof and building to complete the refurbishment of the building and the exterior. B, the council adopts the rate structure for 2023-2024 as presented in this report. C, that council writes to all residents, groups and organisations that made submissions in relation to the draft revised resourcing strategy, revised delivery program and operational plan and advise them of the outcome of council's consideration.
And the seconder for that is Councillor Wheatley. Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, I think it's very straightforward in regards to the scenario for the increasing of the rates above the cap related expenditure to be delayed for a year. Secondly, it's going to give council the opportunity to modify the page 6.1.16 for the delivery program to consider grants opportunities to fully fund the amenity building in the Irish Town Grove. Point 3, I would like to speak to. I think that's where the money's going. So I think that it's going to need a bit of discussion and teased out a bit. I'd like to say Ku-ring-gai Town Hall is a versatile venue catering for weddings, conferences, exhibitions, and it's a multi-use facility. Currently, the groups that are using this town hall is the Ku-ring-gai Philharmonic Orchestra, Ku-ring-gai Youth Orchestra, Marion Street Theatre for Young People, A+, Pinball Table Tennis, Spiritual Assembly of Bayes, Sydney Academy of Chess. So these are some of the players that are currently using this at the moment. I think that it's important that we note that actually Council Lennon, his father in the Chambers was the one who basically bought the town hall to put it in as one of our art centres, if that's correct. So I think it's a very important heritage item in our local government area, and that we need to take pride and take care of this town hall. Next year's capital program, there is an allocated $314,000, and the initial process is for the restoration, roof-related works and waterproofing to this site. I commend the staff for bringing this matter to Council's attention because it is something that is really needed, and I think that will greatly benefit and preserve this building that we must do. Whilst these $314,000 that the staff have brought forward that they would like to, let's say, watertight this building and bring it up to a better level, there's going to be scaffolding that's going to be required to do the roof work on this site. What I'm proposing, that whilst the scaffolding and everything is in place, I propose that we undertake repainting of the building. This would be a cost-effective way in carrying out this work whilst we've got the scaffolding in place. I think the other thing that's important to note as well is that there's going to be a period of time that we're going to have scaffolding around the building and the building will not be able to be utilised whilst this work's been carried out. Whilst we're doing the roof work, we've got the opportunity to be repainting the building, so we're not taking the site away from the community for potentially twice as long as what is needed. So I propose to increase the budget to $800K by reallocating, as I stated there before, the funds from Council Road Renewal Program. I think this is a great opportunity for our arts precinct. I think it's a responsibility of this council, and I think it would just encourage further use and more involvement in this town hall that we should take great pride in. I would love to have everybody's support here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Wheatley as seconder.
I reiterate everything Councillor Smith has said. No, for everyone.
Councillor Alec Taylor.
Oh, thank you. So on balance, I will be speaking against this motion, but I very strongly agree with Councillor Smith and Wheatley that we should refurbish the town hall, and I actually strongly agree with point 3 in this motion. The reason I'm against it is because I'm sick of kicking the can down the road. Our financial situation is untenable. When we took office at the start of term, the cost to fix our infrastructure, our core infrastructure, and that is roads, footpaths, buildings and drains, was $111 million. It has subsequently blown out to nearly $300 million. That's a big number. A big part of the blowout was a review of our drainage assets, and it is just a massive, daunting number. Our previous funding strategy had us selling assets to pay the bills. It was never a sustainable strategy, and now it's simply not feasible. We don't have $300 million of disused assets to sell. And on top of that, the community expects us to deliver new and refurbished facilities. The previous long-term financial plan actually acknowledged the asset sales strategy was not sustainable in the long term and highlighted the need for additional revenue in the future. And I quote, "In the longer term, financial sustainability will require additional recurrent revenue that balances the community's capacity and willingness to pay with the demand for service, facilities and infrastructure. That was actually in our previous long-term financial plan, a recognition that our funding strategy was not sustainable. We urgently need to address this issue. So I would like to move an amendment that is the staff recommendation plus point 3 of the original motion.
And is there a seconder for that? There being no seconder for that, I actually made the call, unfortunately. General Manager, did I make the call?
No, you did, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Taylor.
You never asked for a seconder.
General Manager, did I ask for a seconder?
Yes, you did, Mr Mayor.
So that just leaves with Councillor Smith's motion. Councillors, are there any further speakers to this? Councillor Lennon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to endorse Councillor Smith's and Councillor Whitley's comments on the Pymble Town Hall. I say that not only with a vested personal interest in it, but I feel that it is a unique and valuable community asset to this municipality. It was originally envisaged as part of an arts precinct. Over the years, I've attended dinners, and I haven't attended the rug sales, but I have attended many other events, most recently a rehearsal of the Ku-ring-gai Philharmonic Orchestra. And I know what a valuable and useful place it is. And I also notice, as I think Councillor Smith alluded to, the sense that it is underutilised. It does desperately need the refurbishment of the nature that Councillor Smith has described. I think we have a chance to really exploit this property for the benefit of the people by spending the money that Councillor Smith has earmarked, and I wholeheartedly endorse the sentiment and specifics of item 3 in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lennon. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I too would like to congratulate Councillor Smith for bringing that. Last year, I held a Diwali event at the Town Hall, which was very popular, and everyone that attended the Town Hall absolutely loved it. It is a unique building. People who were there also reminisced about the time that it was a church, and they used to come there as youngsters. I think it is important that we do look after those buildings, and I think this can be a start of our normal program, that we look after all of our old buildings and try and maintain it. I'm also concerned about what Councillor Taylor has just raised about our financial situations. You know, even though they are different from different people, it is the same subject, that we do have an issue about our overall financial situations, and things like this will need an attention. However, conversely, we also have a hole in our budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few questions to the relevant director, probably of operations. With A.3, just questioning the refurbish of roof and building to complete refurbishment of the building exterior. Is this all like surface, like is this structural stuff that is impacting the integrity of the building, or is it sort of more of a decorative kind of element?
Director Banasif.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a bit of both, Councillor Nye. So from the external elements of the building, the entire building will be repainted, but quite a fair few of those windows are rotting, and this is an opportunity to address that window rot as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Secondly, by taking money away from the infrastructure renewal enhancement program roads to go towards a town hall, which I don't necessarily oppose, by the way, what will we lose? Like, what are we sacrificing in order to get to prioritize this one?
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the overall budget spend on roads next financial year is in excess of $12 million. So reallocation of $485,000 is minimal impact on the overall spend to renew our roads. In terms of our financial position and asset management, the building is slipping into a condition 4. And when our assets start to slip into condition 4, they become a backlog issue. And that adds to our long-term financial sustainable position.
Thank you. And then just one final question. Every now and then I ask about, or the residents ask about a potential traffic upgrade that was approved 4 years ago at Tryon and Archbold. Does that fall under this infrastructure renewal enhancement program roads, or is that a different category, hypothetically?
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a different. So the proposal at that intersection is new works. This is funded out of renewal. So in essence, you're swapping renewal budget with another renewal budget.
Right, thank you for confirming my thoughts. Thank you.
Councillor Spencer?
Thank you. I'd like to speak in favour of this this motion for a number of reasons. There are a few things there that I found to be of interest. So firstly, it will be the delay for 1 year on the increasing rates, which is good. Secondly, there is this very important, I'll come back to the town hall shortly, the amenities for Irish Town Grove. That place has been recently refurbished. There's a new playground there, and there are some shops there, and there's a lack of amenities there, and a public toilet there is really very important, and I'm very happy that my colleagues have included Irish Town Grove in this motion. Sorry, it's still a motion, right? It's not an amendment. Yeah. And of course, the town hall. Now, the town hall, there were a list of items. Sorry, a list of activities that were mentioned, like the orchestra and all those things. But I feel that they are very important. I got to tell you this, and I've read the emails that I've received regarding the orchestra, Philharmonic Orchestra, right? Thank you. But what's missing is that I think it's quite unfair because martial arts is very close to my heart, as you know. Did you know that Aikido Australia has been there for 20 over years? Oh yeah, and my son used to train there, and I can tell you, yeah, it leaks. It leaks, and it's been there for 20-something years, and it's doing well. Why? Because it's just across the street from the train station. You can see people walking across with their swords, wooden swords, yes, and it's a good place. It's a good place. So I encourage the councillors to support this motion because there is nearly everything there for a number of people. Thank you.
Councillor Ward?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, just a question to the appropriate director. Would we be sourcing state or federal funding towards refurbishment? There are often grants for these particular purposes.
Director Banasif?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if there are grants available or a grant, we will be submitting an application for the upgrade.
Time to sum up. Councillor Smith, if you so desire.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think tonight, just with all the discussion points, I think it's quite clear that this is a very responsible way to revitalise this asset that we've got. It's in a very, as Councillor Spencer alluded to, it's in a great location that people can get to it with a train and a location. I do look forward to moving forward and bringing this up to a level that the community can be proud of. And I would like to commend the staff for initiating the repairs and acknowledge that these need to be done. I commend the staff on that. I think that's important. That's what's brought it to my attention. So for these reasons, I hope to get everybody's support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. We move to NM2. Extra reports circulated to the meeting, General Manager.
There are none, Mr Mayor.
We have notices of motion which due notice have been given, and we only have one left, which is NM2 Marion Street Theatre, and that is Councillor Ward's motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is an amendment to the motion. Can you read it? Do you want me to read it? Can you read it? Do you want me to read it?
You've got to highlight it as well too.
Oh, and or.
There we go. I think that's a little bit easier to read now.
Yeah, Chris, if the second line, it needs to be and or and or refurbishment. And or, and or.
All good to go. Seconder for this, Councillor Lennon. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My throat seems to be failing me as the night progresses. Sorry about that. Mr. Mayor, the Marion Street Theatre, I'll refer to it as MST, was a prominent cultural institution and a hub for performing arts in Sydney. In 2001, the MST faced a almost significant challenge when it was threatened with closure due to financial constraints, and we all know the history. In 2018, Council resolved to undertake renewal of the theatre and to allocate funds to the project in Council's long-term financial plan. Council staff have since carried out investigation into the state of the building following the design work and development application to reopen the building. The DA was approved in August 2021, design completed in 2022. MST has been a cultural heart and the dramatic arts in Ku-ring-gai, which forms a significant and important part of Australian performing arts history for many decades, that has been allowed to fall into decline and decay, which is a travesty. I think it is disgraceful and acceptable to let such a wonderful building to go to that state. Due to the length of time involved in the whole process, the cost of the project has now expected to exceed $23 million, which Council is unable to fund from its financial resources without selling other prime community assets. The Council has proposed a special rates variation. However, given the economic downturn, the state government's views and many residents' displeasure of SRV increase, I suspect the majority of ratepayers will not agree. It is vital we preserve MST, and I've been working with some dedicated members of the local community to investigate alternatives for redevelopment of the MST site by leveraging this asset so as to allow this important cultural institution to be given a viable new lease of life into the future. Mr. Mayor, you and I met with 2 other community members to hear and explore their suggestions and new ideas. They gave you, Mr. Mayor, their thoughts and a very rough initial draft preliminary project concept not fully detailed concept plans or document that must be adopted, but simply to examine if the council staff had an appetite to consider alternative options of funding to reinstate MST and ensure its future is a vibrant culture hub. These alternate concepts and funding options are to include, but not limited to, exploration of government grants, private sector partnerships, include restoration, renovation, and/or refurbishment of the existing building, and construction of a new Marion Street Theatre along with commercial and residential options. If council can understand that currently they have spent a considerable sum on design of a theatre that council can't afford, and they are left with the problem of owning a condemned building that currently is a liability, where the building is unsafe and could be occupied by homeless people who could be injured if rotten timber led to accidents, or unlawful occupants would set fire to the buildings that would burn furiously due to being wooden construction. The recent fire in CBD in Sydney should be a lesson of a risk involved in such a status quo. If the council has an appetite to explore and listen to the suggestions, then they will see that there's benefits to look at commercial options such as residential. This would include council-maintained title of the theatre, coffee shop and other airspace. It's not much different to the Linfield Village hub. Additional rates from the properties will benefit our revenue. We will proactively address state government's push for new housing in Ku-ring-gai as the location lends itself to this idea, and it is adjacent to transport hub. The financial benefits to ancillary businesses and the community are evident. The legacy council will leave for future generations as the population and its surround continues to grow. I believe there's an opportunity, Mr. Mayor, to revitalise and create a performing arts hub, not just for your own LGA, but beyond. In conclusion, Mr. Mayor, I don't have a detailed plan or desire to be involved in any such plan, and nor am I a developer, but rather am trying to examine ways to revive the theatre. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And seconder, Councillor Lennon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My preferred option for Main Street Theatre remains the design that's been in place for some years. I also quite like the minimalist idea by which we would simply spend, I believe, in the order of about $4 million to at least get the building functioning so there is some theatre. But let's not kid ourselves. We're not going anywhere with this. This has been languishing for about 10 years at a glacial pace. And let's not buy into the error that some people have that somehow selling the Gordon and the Roseville bowling clubs would have made any difference. As we know from the April meeting, in the words of our mayor then, had we sold those two bowling clubs, we still would not be looking at the theatre, we'd be looking at a multi-storey car park in Wahroonga. The reality is that given the numbers as they now are for this theatre, we're up against it. Councillor Ward and I are determined to revive theatre at Marion Street, but it's a battle. And I like this motion because it is exploring ideas. I don't know what's going to work, and I wasn't involved in the meetings. I was unaware they were happening, so I don't know what the concepts were. But I like the idea that there's concepts out there. I like the idea that we have Councillor Ward and members of the community thinking, putting out ideas and engaging. And maybe those ideas will go somewhere, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll trigger an idea that goes somewhere. But we need to do something. We need to be imaginative. We need to involve the people, staff and outside, who might be able to come up with a solution that progresses this. Because 10 years on, there's nothing to show for it. The building is still as it was 10 years ago for all the work. So if we can do something to move this forward, I support it. So I thank Councillor Ward and the others who worked on this. I thank the Mayor for the time that he gave them a week or so, I think, before the notice of motion went in. And let's see what we can do to at least get the dialogue going, get the ideas flowing, see what we can do to revive theatre at Marion Street. Thank you.
Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a few questions, if I may, please. They were talking about, Councillor Ward and Lennon were talking about some concept design, and you have met up with some community people about it. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. Quite happy to do so. We did receive a preliminary design, and the design was to have 9 stories on one section of the site, 5 stories on the front section, and a theatre and, I don't know, performance space, for want of a better word, within that high-rise redevelopment.
Is that an R4?
Perhaps your question might be better asked whether 9 stories is within an R4 envelope to one of the directors.
If I may, please.
Director Watson?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no.
See, thank you. But it's 9 stories, the concept plan. May I ask, how did this meeting occur? When did it occur?
Councillor Ward requested a meeting with myself and there were 2 other people in attendance.
Right. May I ask who they were?
Yes, and Councillor Ward, you might be able to help me out with the second person. The first person was Ken Wolfe and the second person whose name eludes me.
John Bates.
John Bates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. So, a question through you to the General Manager, please. Does Council still maintain the lobby register?
General Manager?
Councillor Spencer, we do, but we only do it for registered lobbyists.
Right. So when I remember the debate when we had the introduction of the register, which is a voluntary one, that councillors have to register if they were meeting up with developers.
General Manager? Mr. Taylor, I think you're up for this one. And you might have to repeat that question.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. If
Mr.
a
Taylor was busy
councillor,
writing.
if a councillor is promoting or lobbying for a particular developer, must that councillor declare?
Point of order. I'm concerned, I'm interested in the answer to that question, but I'm concerned that there may be disorder in this meeting at the moment and that a councillor may be imputing an improper motive.
Mr. Mayor, as you know, neither one of those were developers. It was
We're
it
now-
was 2 members of
we're
the
now debating,
community who
unfortunately,
had an
we are
idea.
now debating it, unfortunately. Councillor Ward, perhaps you might wish to rephrase your question, if possible.
So in the lobby register that council maintains, have you received, has anyone recorded, has any councillor recorded their name in there in relation to this meeting?
Mr.
No,
Taylor.
councillors, I'm not in a position to answer that question. I'm not
Would I
aware.
I
I'm
would
not aware.
suggest that you may take that on notice, might be easier.
Happy to take that on notice and
Thank you,
report
Mr.
to
Taylor.
councillors by memorandum.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
If you have a question,
well, Mr. Mayor, yes, I guess it is to you. Were you aware that they came to you as a developer or as community people who had an idea?
I don't know what context they come to us in that meeting.
You don't know, you didn't ask, you just had a meeting and you don't know why they were there?
Councillor Ward, you requested the meeting, and as far as I was aware, you were the only one that was going to be in attendance at that meeting.
You were in attendance in that meeting with me. I asked a meeting because they wanted a meeting with me and I asked them to meet with our mayor, which you agreed to listen to some idea that they had.
Councillor Ward, you're actually debating it. You requested the meeting and I obliged.
But you don't know what the meeting was about.
I was not aware that you were bringing anybody else.
That is completely untrue.
Councillor Nye?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question through you to the relevant director. Now that you see the wording here on the screen, what is your interpretation of, like, if this were to pass, what's your understanding of what needs to be done between now and August 2023, which is in 2 months' time. Do you even understand what the 3 points say, or what's your interpretation and schedule?
Director Watson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not 2 months, it's one, because reports have got to be prepared in advance. And part one, frankly, gives me very little direction about options. And Councillor Ward's speech refers back to a specific proposal that is no longer reflected in part one. So part one is in fact open slather, in some parts repetitive as to what's gone on in the last couple of years, and in some points I think internally contradictory, and frankly to do an unscoped project of that size does not happen in a month.
Question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director. How long do you need?
Director?
I still don't know exactly what is expected here. I mean, like I said, there are very few parameters around part one. Alternative concepts, what alternative concepts? Funding options, I mean, you know, restoration, we've been over restoration, we've been over renovation. You know, I don't know where the $4 million to do the existing building come up from. I've never heard that figure quoted. I didn't provide advice on that question. I mean, you know, if you're putting apartments on it, you're not retaining ownership of it. What are we? Are we in the business of running the number of apartments that's sitting on top of the theatre to make it pay for itself? If you're retaining ownership of theatre and apartments, you need far more apartments than you do if you're selling apartments, because they have less value, less cash flow. In fact, there is no cash flow. And we've been over the governmental grant opportunities ad nauseum, frankly.
No, that's fair enough, thank you. Councillor Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Director Watson. Director Watson, it is an open-ended number one because we are looking for inspiration. We are looking for ideas from the staff to come up with something. Is that possible?
Director?
Not in a month, no.
What sort of time, through you, sorry, Mr. Mayor, what sort of time limit do you think that you would need?
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at the present time, there is absolutely no budget allocation for any work on Marion Street Theatre in this current budget. Council's just adopted the budget for next year and there wasn't an amendment in relation to Marion Street Theatre. This is a 12-month project at least. You know, you've got to scope up options, you've got to do feasibility comparisons of each of the options. And the proposal that I've seen, I would have thought, I'd be extremely surprised if people did not find that completely unacceptable. If that's the starting point, you know, if that's what it takes, if that's what some members of the community think it takes to self-fund the Marion Street Theatre, I would think that some people who spoke last week in favour of the motion, who hadn't seen the plans, may well change their mind. And I would suspect, given Council's position of a month ago in relation to 2 rezonings at 4 and 5 stories, a building that is at the rear equivalent to a 13-storey building, and almost 8 stories at the front, I would think people would find that not palatable in the context of decisions that this council has made in the last 4 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, Director Watson, for us to put up something like that and try and seek for assistance to try and see if there is an appetite and if there are things that can, do you think that's unreasonable? The concept plan that the community came with was merely an idea. It was not a starting point that you should or shouldn't do that. That is why this motion is so broad. Do you think it's reasonable for us to come to you and say, would it be possible to look at some of these?
Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't know that's a reasonable question for me to ask. I will implement the lawful resolutions of the council. This council had effectively made a decision not that long ago not to do anything at all with Mary Street and to consider it as part of an SRV package. Here we are, a couple of weeks later, starting again from scratch with a 4-week time limit on it and no funding. And I don't know whether the proposal's in or it's out, because it's in the first motion, dropped out of this one, but referred to in your speech. So I would have thought, based on the fact you referred to it in your speech, I would have had to use this as a starting point. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I would have thought I would have had it to start with this proposal sitting in front of me.
Councillor Ward?
May I just respond to that, Mr Mayor, or I need to ask a question?
No, you actually need to ask questions. Councillor Greg Taylor?
Can I perhaps suggest an amendment of Councillor Ward, and that we remove from number 1, so after it says fully operational state, so from all to ownership of title. So we remove, yes, that portion there. And so, yeah, so then it is just for what the renovation to get the building operational, and if we can seek governmental funding for this work. Would you accept that?
And as seconder for that, Councillor Lennon, do you accept that change?
Councillor Ward's happy with it, then yes, I'll accept it.
Sorry, there was a second portion to that question, and if in 3 we can change August to 6 months, or 9 months.
November. Would you change it to November?
Councillor, I'm not quite sure which month we're looking at. We've had a few bids there.
November, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lennon, November.
Again, Mr Mayor, if Councillor Ward's happy with it, I'm happy with it.
Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A question, I think, through the General Manager to the Director, Director Watson. Would it be possible for us to consider at this stage a hybrid solution that involved a small sale within current building envelopes and planning controls that perhaps yielded $5 or $10 million, and that we then part funded it through potentially a federal or state grant? And I understand that we have explored grants in the past. We have 2 new governments in place who are more open to funding the arts, and then a third perhaps funded through asset sales or some other source. Could we consider a solution like that as part of this process?
Director, if you wish to take that on notice, if you're unable to provide a suitable answer at this point in time.
Mr Mayor, if I could just seek clarification on what
asset
the small asset sale is. Is it part of this site or is it something else?
Something else.
I mean, we have a financial sustainability report that effectively says asset sales are not a viable funding source.
Yeah, and so all I'm talking about is a hybrid solution that uses a variety of sources of funding, and it doesn't necessarily seek to be fully self-funding, but part self-funding through the sale of a small portion within current planning controls that would enable this project to become financially viable.
Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor, theoretically a hybrid funding model is available to council now. And in terms of current planning controls, it's a B1 zone site, and we already breach, I don't think we breached the gross floor area, but we certainly breached the height, so we're already exceeding planning controls on that site for a theatre.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Mr Mayor, my question might be through to Councillor Taylor, if I may. Councillor Taylor, would you consider disused bowling clubs as being something that could contribute to pay towards this?
Councillor Taylor, I think I know the answer, but I'll
Is
let
that
you
a
answer.
facetious question, Councillor Smith? It's not a facetious question?
It's an honest question. Thank you.
Okay. Absolutely, I did consider them last year. We were forced to consider those particular assets for sale. I believe that the community does not want them sold, and one of the items on the agenda tonight, the draft recreation needs study, the recreation needs study, very strongly supports the retention of those two sites as parks in particular.
Councillor Taylor, you bit more into the speech.
Answering the question,
A
Mr. Mayor.
simple no probably would have
I
been
was asked
sufficient.
if I would consider selling those bowling greens, and I'm saying for the following reasons, I would not. We need those sites. They're in prime areas for the community. The community would like to retain those sites. Absolutely, they would be terrible sales for our community.
Councillor Nye?
Thank you. A question through you to the relevant director or officer first. If hypothetically no motion succeeds tonight, will the councillors have an opportunity to come up with something different and propose it for the July or August meeting? And if so, how different does it have to be before it's allowed within a 3-month period?
General Manager?
Through you, Mr Mayor, if nothing gets up tonight, the motion would simply lapse, so that you wouldn't have that requirement for a 3-month period, or else run a rescission. So it would simply be a case of a councillor or councillors at any time just putting up a subsequent nom.
Okay, so just confirming, this could be defeated tonight and then some other councillor could move something different later, or does it have to be withdrawn before that? Okay.
If it's defeated, a councillor could move something different or similar at the next meeting.
All right. Now, I would like to move an amendment. I'll seek a seconder afterwards. I'd like to move that the councillors and relevant staff hold a relevant briefing on this topic within the next 4 months. Oh no, 4 weeks. 4 weeks to explore feasibility and potential options. And I'm seeking a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Taylor.
All right, can I speak to this amendment now?
Yes, fire away.
Okay. From my count, the original motion probably would have been defeated on the floor of council. But speaking about this amendment, I do see the benefit of teasing out, exploring ideas offline. We don't have to stay here till 11 o'clock, which is quite likely what we would see. We could just finish the meeting at 9:35. So I suggest that we hold this conversation offline. Thank you.
That was seconded by Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to reserve my right, thanks.
Councillor Smith, if you wish to speak to this. All those in favour of this amendment? That is unanimous. The amendment becomes the motion. All those in favour of the motion? That is unanimous. Business without notice subject to clause 9.3 of the Code of Meeting Practice. There is none. Questions with notice? There is none. Inspections? There is none. Declare the meeting closed.